I am joined by Senator Reid, who chairs the Capital Markets Subcommittee on the Bank Committee. Thanks for the time, as always, appreciate it. What do you expect to hear today from Chairman Bernanke? Do you think this is a Fed chairman about to signal to you all they're ready to take more action?
I believe he will talk about the serious investigations that are undertaken. I think he has to give us assurances that the Libor rate now is appropriate, that it is not manipulated, and then I think he's going to spell out some, not specifics, but I think in general terms, the steps they have taken, the steps they must take to ensure it's credible, reliable, and a good index to use in financial markets.
Before we even talk Libor on the economy itself, what about that? Do you think this is a Fed chairman about to launch quantitative easing 3, QE3?
Well, the note to the last meeting suggests that that was discussed, that there are certain scenarios which they will do that. I think, again, he'll be circumspect. He will talk about the need not just for monetary policy, but for appropriate fiscal policy. But I think he will leave the door open to further monetary expansion.
Would you support that move right now? Would you support another round of quantitative easing?
I would. I think what we're seeing is an economy that is not moving with full speed, that there's been this persistent job growth, but not adequate enough to put people back to work and to move the economy with the speed it should be moving. So I think any tool we have available, and again, it's not just monetary policy, there should be more active fiscal policy here, but he has a little more leverage and a little more leeway than we do.
Senator, I know that Jim Reynolds back in New York has some questions for you as well. Jim?
Senator, good morning.
Good morning, Jim.
Senator, the market is sort of a little bit at wit's end in terms of what additionally the Fed can do. We've seen Operation Twist, we've seen QE2. The market's on the fence as to whether QE3 would help. The market is fervently of an opinion that fiscal responsibility sort of should kick in here. Where are you on what the Fed should do next or could do next and the impact that would have on the markets?
Well, I think the Fed should maintain the option of moving in with another quantitative easing. If you see employment softening even more, if you see, particularly if inflation stays within bounds, then I think they have the room to move. I think the very fact that they take action can give the market some sort of hope that, we're not just sitting back idly, either monetary fiscal policy and letting things further deteriorate.
Senator, it's Betty here. I just want to chime in with one comment and question. I mean, last week I had a chance to sit down with Warren Buffett, and he had some very strong words for Congress. He said it was, quote, disgusting to him to see lawmakers wrangling over the debt ceiling and the fiscal cliff issue when they could clearly resolve that issue in an afternoon. Does that resonate with you? Why is there a lack of urgency on Capitol Hill to address these issues and just let the country move on?
Well, I think certainly the whole issue last August of the debt ceiling was more of a political statement than sound economic policy, and it forced the supercommittee, and the supercommittee was ineffectual, and now we're locked into this sequestration process. As the President has indicated, we require a across-the-board approach, not only reducing expenditures, but also increasing revenues. I think also, too, in terms of longer term, in terms of reform of some of our entitlement programs, but in the immediate, the issue really is, I think, a combination of appropriate reductions in expenditures as well as revenue increases. And frankly, my colleagues on the Republican side have not yet stood up and said, we understand it has to be both sides of the equation, not just one side.
Senator, the market, well, as you know, we're approaching towards the end of this year the quote-unquote fiscal cliff.
Right.
The markets are sort of on edge, anticipating something out of Washington, although it's beginning to be assumed that nothing will happen. What's your best guess as to what's going to come out of Washington as it pertains to the fiscal cliff?
Well, as it pertains to fiscal cliff, I think there is continued concern about an abrupt change in policy and the impact on the overall economy and the impact on markets. That is growing. Again, it can't be a unilateral approach. Just the math doesn't work if it's all expenditure reductions, because then you start cutting into critical programs and you deprive the economy of the stimulus it needs. And on the other side, we're having a very difficult time getting any serious revenue proposals to try to close the gap. But I think the energy and the interest as the date approaches is becoming more sincere and more concerned about what we have to do.
Senator Reid, let me wrap up here and ask
Sure.
you about the Libor situation, which you mentioned at the top. Right now, we've had one bank settle, both with U.S. regulators and U.K. regulators, Barclays, for about $450 million. How convinced are you and your colleagues? I know you just sent a letter to the Attorney General, Eric Holder, basically saying step this investigation up. How confident are you, or what is your thought about whether or not this ends with Barclays, or whether other banks are implicated ultimately?
Well, it seems that other banks are implicated. That has to be validated by thorough review and investigation. That's why we asked the Attorney General to look into it. But this rate setting mechanism with 16 banks submitting on a daily basis different data, different information. So it would be surprising to me if it was just one outlaw. In fact, it's pretty clear from what the British are doing that they're looking seriously at a number of institutions, and frankly, I think we should be also.
All right. Listen, Senator Jack Reed, appreciate you joining us. Member of the Banking Committee, in just a short time, have a chance to question Ben Bernanke about Libor, the economy, and anything else on the radar.